Okay, any questions? If I don't hear them, I'll have my two servants here, Lynette and Gary, pass them on. Yes, Chelsea.
Nothing. Well, I was on a few of your projects, and it seems to me an interesting fact about a lot of the potteries out in the Damascus, Oregon City areas, into the Barlow Trail. It historically, didn't the potters set up there because they were catching the wagons coming through and selling pottery, because the pottery was heavy, the pottery was breakable, and a lot of the wagons didn't bring that kind of stuff across. So all these potteries set up in there, and you caught the original. This is 1840, 1850s.
That's right.
I don't know about the later ones. Maybe I think they became more a regular market in certain areas.
Very, very good observation. Chevalier Richardson and Pedigo and Samuel Grove, they were in a strategic location. They knew it, and it's too bad about Richardson. If he hadn't been using lead glaze, because his pottery was well done. It was very good. And when we went back to Warren County, Indiana, and saw his first works, we just went wild. We couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe that we found it, for one thing, and then to find one collector who had a whole bunch of them. That was these are real. He had pots from the whole pots. And it was the same thing as he had. He was a very good potter, and I miss him. Pat, where's Pat? Am I looking at Pat? Is Pat still here? Pat did a biography of Chevalier. Oh yeah, Pat, tell us about. You did a biography of Chevalier Richardson, and most of I think I printed it in screenings, didn't I? Yeah. It was. If you ever go, Glenda, if you ever go back, it's worth looking at, because she got the spirit of Chevalier, and she understood what was going on with him. A very good biography of Chevalier. Yes. Any other questions? Yes.
Did your surveys include trying to find the clay beds themselves and how far they might have gone to have to get the clay removed?
I didn't get that one. Did you guys pick that up?
I couldn't hear it all the way.
She wondered if they hunted or if you guys hunted for the clay pits that they looked for.
Oh, always. The clay pit, we could actually, surprisingly enough, even for Solomon Way, and John Richardson, who were under the freeway near Aola, we could not find their sites. We found the spring, the creek that probably helped them, but we did, in fact, walk down, and we found the clay beds.
Oh.
Nearly all of these potters, and I went to a couple of the big pottery shows at the Coliseum and talked to potters who were looking for clays. Nearly all of them knew some of these clay sites. However, what they didn't know is that there were guys like me and Blaine and Dick Hugh running around who knew all of them, where all of them were, We had a conference among ourselves, and we decided we wouldn't tell them. Because where were we being mean? Because we figured that a craft potter finding all the hematites and the limonites and all of that stuff Solomon Way was using would deplete the site right away. He'd probably start selling you buckets of it or something. That's the way our minds work.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's true.
Any other
Good
questions?
idea.
Yes.
What's the significance of artwork on pottery?
Well, the main thing, the common sense is it goes back to decorative things. Most people, when you tell them, we've just crossed the plains, we don't have any of our pottery, we need some pottery, their first thought is, well, I want to get a churn or a butter pot that's going to be durable, and that's the first thoughts. Okay, so then they live there for about 4 or 5 years, and the housewife says, how come I don't have any pretty flowers on my pots? And that's when you're operating in these exchange networks, and they tell the potter. A potter, Barnett Ramser, he would respond to that. Someone told him that one of the kids in the neighborhood was going to have a birthday party. He made little pots, miniature pots for them, and they were gobbled up. And So basically, even if you were just a farmer with a kiln in an urban exchange or agrarian exchange network, you could respond to the need for prettying things up, But think about it, Lynette. When you came across the plains in the Oregon, you just wanted a durable churn, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Well, fancy stuff came later. Am I right? I'm a man. What do I know?
You're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
What's up? Are you raising your hand? Okay, yes.
Where were the glaze materials coming from? Like the leaded glaze or salt glaze?
What's a glaze?
No, where was it coming from? What was their source?
Oh, that's a very good point, because that's one of my specialties that most people haven't researched. The early glazes themselves, nothing more than fine clay beds that they basically thinned to use. Now, the only really good clay bed that produced a glaze like the commercial glazes that came later, I'll tell you about those, was in the Lucky River near Oregon State University, in that area. And I talked to what's his name, Dr. Callison, who's the head archaeologist at Oregon State?
Bronner.
Yeah. Anyway, I talked to him. He said, well, we did a survey of that, the Lucky Mute site. We did find it. He said we found it, but it wasn't really thin enough to be a glaze, or there wasn't enough of the thin clay to be a glaze. But basically, what happened was they were, if you ground them I had a scanning electron microscope look at some of the way they ground their stuff. If you ground it very thoroughly, like two potters in particular, Solomon Way and later Charles Fisher, then you could get the consistency of a glaze. And the clue there was, though, you have to have a lot of silicon dioxide, glass. A glaze vitrifies. A glaze turns into glass. It turns into a colored glass, and that keeps them from the porosity of the clay that is no longer a problem. And you could find those things. Now, it turns out that after the Civil War, everybody knew that near Ann Arbor, Michigan, and near Albany, Oregon, or Albany, New York, there were huge mines for the kind of glazes they use today. And they still haven't been depleted. And so they started shipping those, when the railroads came in, one whole boxcar was full of Albany slip. I have the record of that. It came in basically in barrels, coming in barrels. So you did what you could. Now, if you didn't have a substance glaze, what we call a slip glaze, you could get it by red lead, melting red lead, and using that as a glaze. Probably having to break up some baubles or something like that to add some silicon dioxide, some glass, a glassy material to vitrify it. That was one solution. It wasn't a very good solution, because even then they began to understand that getting a lot of lead in your system was not a good thing. Salt glazes involved basically throwing a little salt into the kiln at a certain point, and then you get that nice kind of a bubbly velvet type glaze, salt glaze. That was a real art, though, and most of the good salt glaze seen in Oregon, it's not very well done. It's done in patches, and they didn't really get it down. And so there's just a lot of ways of making glazes, I guess, Dennis, and people have experimented with them.
Was the lead glaze?
What?
Was the lead glaze from a local source?
No, the lead glazes were being imported. Even the Hudson's Bay Company imported a certain amount of lead oxide, red lead, and various things like that. And remember, the first store in the Oregon Territory, the first real big store, was the sale shop at Fort Vancouver. Starting in 1825, they were importing glazes, importing red lead. So there's a lot of lead coming in. And they sold to, incidentally, the big store at Fort Vancouver, the sales shop sold to all the new merchants, Abernethy, all of them bought their goods, including red lead, from the sales shop at Fort Vancouver. So that was the main source of that. And there wasn't much of that coming overland, though. But anyway, identifying your glazes, Ollie, that's a big thing. It's a very big thing. And next, anybody else? I'm sure Shirley, it's time to go home. Yes.
What role did the Chinese play in helping?
Oh, that's a very good point. Chinese were used as clay mixers. We know that the ledger